Google says LLMs.txt files won't help or hurt your search rankings. So Google just updated their guide for optimizing for generative AI search. And here is what it says right now about LLMs.txt. So it says you don't need to create new machine readable files, AI text files, markup, or markdown to appear in Google search, including its generative AI capabilities, as Google search itself doesn't use them. Note that Google may discover, crawl, and index many kinds of files in addition to HTML on a website. This doesn't mean that the file is treated in a special way. So Google says two things here. You don't need to create these things because they won't impact your visibility in Google or in the generative AI capabilities like AI mode or AI overviews. Google doesn't use them. However, if you create them, Google may discover, crawl, and index those files like any other file. And this does not mean that they are going to be treated in any special way or carry any special weight, right? So there's a comment I always say, and I noticed Google dropped it here. It's Google also adds here, it's completely fine if you decide to create and maintain LLMs.txt file or other similar files for other services or systems that use these files. Doing so won't harm or help your visibility or rankings in Google search, as Google search ignores them. So one of the things I've always said is Google speaks for Google. They do not speak for the entire world of LLMs, right? And AI search. So here what they're saying is if you decide to create them, that's totally fine if you believe that other systems or other platforms are using them. They just don't work or are not valuable, not bringing anything to Google search and Google AI experiences, right? And I think this is one of the most interesting discussions we're having here. I've written about this before in a blog earlier this month, how to optimize your website for AI agents. And I also noted here how there is always a backward and forward on LLMs.txt. It's very controversial. So June 18th, 2025, no AI system currently using LLMs. I don't think this is, as I said, I wouldn't take a statement like that from Google. Google speaks only for Google. And then later, no index your LLMs.txt file. They recommended no indexing it, right? But here's the thing, if you no index it, the no index tag may be read by other search engines, right? So again, maybe for Google, they are okay with you no indexing it. I'm not yet discussing whether LLMs.txt is valuable or not. I'm just pointing out the statements that were set by Google. So no index your LLMs.txt file. And then later, Google doesn't support LLMs.txt and isn't planning to. And then later, why should AI systems trust a file? They didn't say that word for word. This is my wording. Why should AI systems trust a file that website owners can fill with whatever they want? And I think the thing here is, if you think of LLMs.txt as providing any special value, think of it as keywords meta tags, which no one uses, no one talks about, not important at all right now. Some people say LLMs.txt are helping LLMs discover URLs. That's a different story. That's similar to being a sitemap, right? And then later, Google uploaded an LLMs.txt file for the Google Search Central portal, which is gone. Like if you try to find it, you'll see that it's gone. This was the URL, but it still remains on many of Google other sites. And then in January this year, Google explains they added LLMs.txt to their websites for other purposes. So, okay, that's a good point here that they think potentially this is not valuable for Google search, but potentially other systems may use LLMs.txt. And then later, again in January, Google search team does not endorse LLMs.txt files. So it's funny that they have to keep repeating this over and over. It's incredibly redundant. I think they made it very clear that they don't use LLMs.txt for Google search or Google AI features. However, they still used it on some of their websites, right? So, and they made it clear that it's for other purposes. So, is an LLMs.txt file useful or not? You're gonna continue seeing people saying yes and then people saying no. And what I'm suggesting, or what I think is the best approach here, is to look at everything right now with like, try not to limit yourself, right? Try not to not necessarily be easy influenced by whatever someone is saying, right? Everyone is new in this field in SEO, right? No one has been an AI researcher for the last 10 years, for example, or we're all learning, we're all trying things. I've seen people make very bold statements, or let's say, let's call them what they are, assumptions based on single incidents or one thing, or like, hey, I tried this and it didn't work. Yeah, that's only you, and that's only one incident, right? It's not enough to come up with a general conclusion. We need a lot of testing, a lot of experimenting, um, and not let's just not get into the debate of how many SEO tests are broken or not accurate, or measuring the wrong thing altogether. So what I'm trying to say here is LLMs.txt useful or not? Well, I think it's clear that it's not useful. I mean, the official statement of Google that it's not useful for their search or AI surfaces or features. However, we also can question that because Google has a history of saying things that turn out not to be true. So that's one area. Is it useful in general? Is there any value out of LLMs.txt in general? Potentially, yes. We don't know. So the right answer, in my opinion, is we don't know. We're not sure. Should you implement LLMs.txt on your website or not? Well, it's an impact effort situation. If it's a low effort, because there's no real impact or real measurable impact at this point. So if it's a low effort thing for you to do, why not? But remember, anything you implement, you also need to maintain, right? So it's not just creating a file and pushing it out there. And this is one of the things a lot of people don't realize. And in the era of vibe coding, everyone is like, "Hey, I created this app in 5 minutes." Yeah, but creating an app in 5 minutes, I'm not gonna discuss the debugging and testing and edge cases and all these things. That's enough to show that you cannot really create a reliable app in quickly. Um, but also you need to maintain it. There's always new things that you need to do. There's always things you'll find that can be improved. There's always errors. Did you test it in mobile? Did you test this in desktop? And so on, right? So, and I'm saying this as someone who has built a lot of vibe coded stuff. So, um, if it's a low effort job for you to create and maintain, why not? And the same for Markdown, right? I do not recommend creating a version of every URL, a Markdown version. If you can bake the Markdown inside the content of the page, the URL itself, not a separate URL, that's okay. If you can't, then I don't think at this point. Again, I'm not gonna say no. It's up to you, but if you're gonna create a Markdown version, then you at least need to canonicalize it to avoid duplication. It's gonna be a whole mess. So you need to account for things. Uh, so yeah, if should you or should you not? If it's a simple thing for you to do, you have the capacity, go ahead. If not, then um, I don't see how you can get a or build a business case. It's very difficult right now to build business cases for SEO in some situations. So this may be one of them. I'm not against it. Just to be clear, I think we should test things. We should give them enough time. I have LLMs.txt on my website. I have markdowns on my website. And I'm waiting to see or observe anything. So far, I have not. Yeah, so hope you found this useful and see you next video. Bye.